Is the new Quest 3 worth it over the Quest 2? In my hands, I currently have the Quest 2 as well as the recently released Quest 3. I won't lie to you, I've already sold my Quest 2 to help offset the cost of buying the new Quest 3. But in the short time that I have both in my hands before I ship this out, I just wanted to do a quick comparison and share my thoughts on these two devices. It would seem that Meta plans to sell the Quest 2 and Quest 3 alongside of each other rather than just discontinue the Quest 2. The reason for this is because even though the Quest 3 is pretty much just a better device in every way, it still is just a bit more expensive. The base Quest 2 price was just recently lowered to $249 US, while the Quest 3 price is $499 US, so double. But the Quest 2 is not half the headset that the Quest 3 is. I want to keep this video short and to the point, but I also just have to take a second here to say this video is not sponsored in any way. I bought both of these devices with my own money, and these thoughts are all my own. So with that out of the way, yes, the Quest 3 is a better device than the Quest 2, pretty much all around, there's no doubt about that. Everything from the increased resolution, the better lenses, and the faster processor just add up to a more refined experience. In fact, the experience I've had so far on the Quest 3 is more like what I thought I would have with the Quest 2 when it came out. But still, the benefits of the Quest 3 really only come into play in certain use cases. For instance, there aren't many games out right now that have been remastered or updated for the Quest 3's better graphics, just a handful of titles. So for most games, you're more or less getting a similar visual experience. And for a device that has been heralded as bringing mixed reality to the masses, there aren't really very many games or apps that take full advantage of the mixed reality features yet. So far, the mixed reality experience on Quest 3 for me has really just boiled down to a nicer pass-through experience. It is nicer to have a more realistic, colorful view of your house as a pass-through environment, for sure. But if that doesn't really matter to you, then you might be better off saving some money and sticking to the Quest 2. So the software experience on Quest 2 and 3 are nearly identical at this point. They run the same operating system, the same version, and the same games, albeit at slightly different resolutions. It's really only the hardware experience that is differentiating these two devices at this point in time. But is it really worth paying double to get the better one? Like double? That sounds like a lot. So at this point, I just want to say I've been switching back and forth between the two headsets to really just take in the differences. And what I found is that the Quest 3 is miles sharper. Like if you are really looking to upgrade your visual experience in VR, the Quest 3 just has to be the one to get. The thing about VR, regardless of how good the tech is getting, is that you really have to feel out the waters and find a gamer experience that keeps you coming back for this type of entertainment device to be worth it at all. Like for $250, we're talking the same price as a Nintendo Switch or an Xbox Series S, which in my house gets used literally every day. But when you're venturing into your first VR headset purchase, it's hard to know right away if you'll use the device maybe once a day or even once a year. So it's much more palatable to spend less money to find out what you like about it or not like about it, or find that experience that's going to keep you coming back. For me, I bought the Quest 2, I thought it was super cool, and then I didn't use it nearly as much as I thought I would. That is, until F122 came out with VR support. And I bought my racing chair and racing wheel, and now I use my VR headset at least 2 or 3 times a week in my racing sim. This type of VR experience that keeps me coming back made it worth it to me to upgrade to the Quest 3. Because I find myself using it that much, like hours and hours every week, it made spending that extra money worth it to me for the extra fidelity. But even so, the Quest 2 was working fine in F1 VR. So really, you can save yourself some money if you don't have the shiny object syndrome like I do. If you're just getting started and you want a VR headset in your life, I would say the Quest 2 is still a great experience. You're getting the same menu UI, you're getting hand tracking, you're getting pass-through for if you have to walk around, just black and white. But that's fine since you don't really use it that much anyways, to be honest. And you can always just take off the headset if you really need to see what you're doing. Like, I know that might sound obvious, but it's still worth mentioning that we used to just lift the headset off our heads before VR headsets had pass through in the first place. On the Quest 2, you're actually getting better battery life. And when you're using PC VR over a link cable, you can actually keep the device charged and play for longer. Whereas the Quest 3 will actually drain its battery on a link cable now because of its higher performance. So watch out for that in your longer sessions on link mode. The Quest 3 controllers have a much better feel to them, better haptics, a little bit smaller, but in general, they're not all that crazy different from the Quest 2 controllers. They have the same button layout, the same number of buttons, and nothing's really changed in the physical usage of them. So again, upgraded hardware, but we haven't seen any upgrades on the software side that's exclusive to Quest 3 yet. Besides mixed reality, of course, but we've already mentioned that that just doesn't have anything that useful yet. So in summation, it's all these little caveats that keep me saying, yes, the Quest 3 is a better device visually, but you're getting the same software and UI and very similar controllers and all these things that just basically keep me saying that the Quest 3 has yet to spread its wings. So while it's really tempting to say that the Quest 3 is overall twice as better as the Quest 2, I would say that where we are in the Quest 3's life cycle right now, even if it's better hardware, it just might not be worth the money for people getting into VR right now. Let me put it this way, the Quest 2 is definitely not half the headset that the Quest 3 is, especially because mixed reality has not really taken off yet in any meaningful way. That means the Quest 2 can do basically everything that the Quest 3 can do, just with maybe a little bit less visual fidelity. That means taking a little extra care to find the sweet spot on those Fresnel lenses when you put on the headset, and maybe a little bit of envy for those Quest 3 users once we do finally get a killer mixed reality app. But in general, my advice to those looking for their first headset while saving some money is look for a Quest 2, whether it's used or new that fits your budget. Try it out, see if you like it, and see how much you realistically use it per day, per week, etc. And then once you know that there is some experience that's worth the upgrade to you, then go ahead and upgrade to the Quest 3. If you're already a Quest 2 owner, I would say just hang on to it for a while longer. See if we get a really killer mixed reality app that you just have to try before pulling the trigger, because most everything else on the Quest 3 is the same so far besides the general visual resolution bump. And finally, if you are a VR veteran and you know that you've been craving the visual upgrade for those experiences that you already love on Quest 2, well, I'm kind of talking to myself here, so obviously I think the Quest 3 is worth it for this type of person. It's just a bit better at pretty much everything across the board, except maybe battery life. And if battery life is a deal breaker for you, you might still be better off with the Quest 2. So let me say that again, but shorter. Quest 2 is the one to get for new VR users. Quest 3 is the one to get for returning VR users who need the extra resolution and don't mind the shorter battery life. I mean, who can really play for hours on end anyways? Y'all need to learn to take breaks. But for now, I think Meta obviously knows what they're doing selling these devices together for the foreseeable future. Whether you liken it to an Apple type of move where they continue selling last year's iPhone for a little bit less money, or you call it directly targeting the console prices of Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, etc., the Quest 2 becomes a de facto Quest Lite or Quest SE, even though it's rumored we might see another device fill that role soon. But then for those more discerning VR users, possibly VR veterans looking to splash some cash to upgrade their experience to the latest and greatest, the Quest 3 is there for them. If you're just trying to go from 0 to 1, like from no VR headset to your first VR headset, I would save some money and try out the Quest 2. So as a closing point, I just want to say that I really enjoy both of these devices, and I'm just glad that we have more choices than ever before, because more choices is always better. And we're kind of seeing a new dawn of VR and AR right now, especially with things like Apple's Vision Pro headset coming soon, and who knows what other manufacturers are going to launch their own headsets. So all very exciting things. I'm loving the new Quest 3, but I still love the Quest 2, and I know a lot of other people do too. So thanks for watching, and please feel free to start up a conversation in the comments below, whether it's a specific or generalized question about the Quest 2, Quest 3, VR in general. Just let me know in the comments below. I do my best to respond to every comment. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.